You ever feel like your mind's a wild river in the middle of a storm? No matter how hard you try to calm it down, it just keeps rushing in all directions, dragging thoughts, memories, and worries along in an endless current. We often think that controlling the mind means holding it back, like trying to cup water in our hands. But the tighter we squeeze, the faster it slips away. The mind's restless, like the wind try to trap it, and it just shifts shape, slips through the cracks, and blows somewhere else. We tell ourselves that thinking more will bring clarity, so we dive headfirst into this maze of thoughts, believing that one idea might finally free us from the last. But what really happens is the opposite. We get stuck in a loop of noise. Drifting further from the silence we're actually searching for, the mind doesn't calm down on command. Just like a mirror doesn't stop reflecting because we tell it to, it simply shows what's in front of it. A lake becomes still not because someone orders it to, but because the wind dies down. When we try to control our thoughts, they just multiply. It's like fighting the waves. No matter how hard you struggle, you just end up exhausted, and the ocean stays the ocean. Real mastery doesn't come from resisting, it comes from understanding the movement. It's not a fight of willpower, it's a dance of awareness. And in that dance, the smartest move is to just observe. Watch what shows you pay thought, a memory, a feeling, and notice how everything passes, like clouds drifting across the sky without leaving a trace. The mind is just your inner sky showing itself in temporary forms. Beneath all those clouds, the sky is always vast, clear, and still. Mastering the mind isn't about being stronger than it's about realizing you're not it. There's something in you that sees the thoughts, something that stays steady even when your mind's all over the place. That something is what the Tao calls the space of being the still point inside all the movement. When you come back to that space, the wind of the mind can blow as hard as it wants, but it can't carry you away. True strength comes from softness. Bamboo stands tall because it bends. The river reaches the ocean because it never tries to be anything but water. The mind's the same. When you understand it, it naturally settles down, not because you forced it to, but because you're in tune with it. And it's in that silence that wisdom starts to bloom. Lao Tzu once said, "He who conquers others is strong, but he who conquers himself is powerful." And what does conquering yourself really mean, if not understanding the mind, that endless stream of thoughts that never stops moving? Most of our lives, we think mastering the mind means controlling it, disciplining it, shaping it to fit our will. But the Tao shows us something softer, something wiser. The mind isn't an enemy to defeat, it's a river that just needs space to flow. When we try to dam it up, it overflows. When we open the path, it finds its natural course. In Taoist wisdom, the mind isn't seen as separate from the world, but as part of the same rhythm that makes the wind blow and the moon wax and wane. The mind moves in cycles, clear and confused, silent and noisy, inspired and tired. Wanting to control it is like demanding the sea stay perfectly still. Nice idea, but totally against nature. Yet when we get that movement, when we stop fighting it, something shifts. The mind doesn't quiet because we forced it to, it quiets because we finally stop trying so hard. The Tao teaches Wu Wei the art of not forcing things, of acting without effort, of flowing with what is, and that includes your relationship with your own mind. When you try too hard to control your thoughts, you create tension. But when you let them be what they are, the flow finds its balance. Mastering the mind isn't about shutting it down, it's about letting it breathe. It's a quiet kind of mastery, almost invisible, born from awareness and surrender. Picture a river winding through the mountains. It doesn't argue with the rocks, doesn't get offended by the twists and turns, doesn't try to force a straight line through the land. It just flows, bends when it needs to, curves around what's in the way, seeps through cracks, accepts what is. And that's exactly why it reaches the ocean. The mind works the same way. When it stops fighting itself, when it moves with what it feels and thinks instead of against it, it finds its way to that inner sea, the space of peace. Lao Tzu said, "Water is soft, yet it overcomes the hard. It seems weak, yet it defeats the strong." That line holds the secret to mastering the mind. True mastery doesn't come from being rigid or forceful. It comes from being gentle, aware, fluid. Mastering your mind isn't about control. It's about becoming like water, flexible, clear, quiet. When your thoughts are racing, just watch them. When the mind settles, breathe with it. When it won't stop talking, smile and listen to the silence between the words. Over time, you'll realize it's not the noise of your thoughts that defines you, but the silence that holds them. The Tao reminds us that the universe doesn't struggle to be what it is. The sun doesn't try to shine, it just shines. The flower doesn't try to bloom, it just opens when the moment's right. The same goes for the mind when it's in tune with the Tao. It thinks when needed, it quiets down when silence is called for, it acts without pushing, and rests without guilt. That state isn't something you force, it's something you remember. The first step is realizing your mind is a tool, not the boss. It's useful, powerful, creative, but when it takes the throne of your awareness, it turns into a tyrant. The Taoist path invites you back to the center to become the calm observer who watches the wind without being swept away by it. The mind can blow strong, but you're the sky that holds it. When you stop trying to control your mind and start to understand it, something new appears, a quiet kind of intelligence, a wisdom that doesn't come from thinking but from harmony. It's the same wisdom that guides birds across continents and lets bamboo bend without breaking. That's a real mastery, the mastery of non-mastery, the power to be at peace even when the mind moves. Today, you'll learn 3 simple ways to return to that natural flow. 3 practices to dissolve the weight of control and rediscover the calm clarity that's already within you. Because mastering the mind isn't about locking it down, it's about setting it free. And the first step to mastering the mind is to stop trying to master it. Sounds like a paradox, right? But that's the key. Before you try to change what you think, you've got to learn how to watch. Watch without rushing, without judging, without needing to interfere. The mind's like a river. If you jump in and try to fight the current, it'll just drag you along with it. But if you stay on the riverbank, just watching the flow, you start to catch its rhythm. Same thing with your thoughts. When you stop fighting them, you realize they're not enemies, just life moving through you. Awareness is that quiet spot inside that sees everything. It doesn't freak out about what it notices. It just watches. It's like the sky. It holds the clouds without ever becoming them. When you sit down and close your eyes for a second, you can sense it. There's a part of you that thinks, but there's also a part that watches the thinking, that watcher. That's where real freedom begins. It's the part that notices thoughts come and go, emotions rise and fade, sensations appear and disappear, and yet something in you stays the same. Most of the time we try to silence the mind by force, but that's like trying to calm the wind with your hands. Peace doesn't come from control, it comes from acceptance. And acceptance doesn't mean you're cool with everything. It just means you let what's there be there for a moment without fighting it. When emotion shows up, watch it like you'd watch a wave forming in the ocean. It swells, peaks, crashes, fades. No wave lasts forever. Awareness is the ocean. Thoughts are just foam on the surface. The Tao teaches that wisdom grows out of silent observation. When you can watch a thought without getting sucked into it, it loses the power to drag you around. It becomes just a ripple on the surface of your mind. Slowly, a little space opens up between you and your thoughts, and that's where peace breathes. That space is where real clarity shows up. Lao Tzu said, knowing others is intelligence. Knowing yourself is enlightenment. To know your mind is first to recognize it as movement, not as who you are. Practicing awareness is really just coming home to that natural state. Throughout the day, watch your mind without trying to fix it. When anxiety pops up, don't say, I need to get rid of this. Just say, anxiety's here. When fear shows up, say, fear's here. And then just watch. That simple act of noticing is already an act of love. Because watching is allowing, and what's allowed transforms on its own. Just like ice melts under the sun without trying, suffering dissolves when it's met with the light of awareness. Acceptance isn't giving up, it's going with the flow. It's letting life be what it is so you can be who you are. When you accept, the mind finds rest. When you resist, it becomes a battlefield. Acceptance is Wu Wei the effortless, allowing that the Tao talks about. It's the gentle move of someone who understands the river's going to flow anyway. And peace comes not from controlling it, but from moving with it. Think of bamboo bending in the wind. It doesn't fight the movement, doesn't panic about the direction. Its secret is flexibility. That's what acceptance is. The art of bending without breaking. When you accept what you feel, what you think, what you are, the mind stops being an enemy and becomes your ally. It starts expressing itself with less noise, with more clarity. Acceptance is trust. It's knowing that even in the middle of chaos, there's an invisible order holding everything together. And when you trust that, the mind surrenders to it the same way the river gives itself to the sea. That's when true mastery appears. Not the mastery of control, but of calm. The mastery of someone who knows you don't need to control the wind to hear the sound of the leaves. Awareness is like a mirror. It reflects everything without ever getting stained. When you come back to that mirror, the mind chills out because it realizes it doesn't need to fight for space. It's already part of the whole. Acceptance then isn't some technique. It's a homecoming, a return to that natural state where your being and life itself breathe as one. And from that quiet presence, the second step begins. Wu Wei, the art of not forcing, of moving without tension, of letting life move through you. A mind that's been seen and accepted starts to settle like a lake after the rain. There are still a few ripples, but you can already see the moon's reflection. That's where the magic of Wu Wei starts to show up. The principle of effortless action. Wu Wei isn't about doing nothing. It's about doing in harmony. It's moving with what is. No rush, no resistance, no stressing about outcomes. When your mind is stuck on control, your body stiffens, your thoughts narrow, your heart shuts down. But when you relax and let life flow through you, your actions become simple, natural, quiet. Picture bamboo swaying in the wind. It doesn't choose to bend left or right, it just follows the breeze. And that's why it never breaks. That's the mind in Wu Wei. It bends with life, without losing its shape, without losing its essence. It doesn't need to prove, win, or understand everything. Doing comes from being. Action rises naturally from presence, not pressure. Wu Wei is that state where thought and silence exist side by side, where action and rest become the same movement. It's not laziness, it's wisdom in motion. When you walk with awareness, breathe consciously, speak without hurry, and truly listen, that's Wu Wei. No effort, just flow. Life moves through you, not against you. The mind that tries to control everything is always tense. It craves results, demands answers, needs certainty. But the Tao is the path of mystery, of surrendering to the unknown. In Wu Wei, you act because the moment calls for it, not because your mind insists. It's like a musician playing, not to finish the song, but because the music wants to be played. The beauty isn't in the destination, it's in the act itself. Presence is the doorway to Wu Wei. When you're truly present, your thoughts stop racing. They sync with the rhythm of the moment. Being present means being whole in every breath. There's no past to carry, no future to chase, just this exact now, the only place the mind can rest. Watch a leaf falling from a tree. It doesn't choose where to land, yet it touches the ground perfectly. That's Wu Wei movement without calculation, precision without effort. When the mind surrenders to that flow, it stops being a battlefield and turns into a clear river. Action stops coming from tension and starts flowing from clarity. It's what Lao Tzu called doing without doing. The body acts, but the ego stays out of the way. You've probably noticed that the best moments in life happen when you're not trying to make them happen. When laughter just bursts out, when inspiration hits from nowhere, when love grows without planning. In those moments, the mind isn't running the show, it's part of the dance. That's Wu Wei, the natural flow of existence guiding a heart that's finally learned to trust. The practice is simple, but man, it runs deep. With everything you do, just notice, am I forcing this or flowing with it? If you feel tension, come back to your breath, feel your body, drop back into the moment, do only what this exact moment calls for. No more, no less. When your mind learns discipline through gentleness, it starts to realize there's a bigger intelligence running the show, and your job is just to flow with it. When you act through Wu Wei, life starts vibing with you. Things line up. Opportunities pop up. Solutions just kind of fall into place. It's not magic. It's alignment. It's the Tao moving through you because you finally got out of your own way. Real mastery of the mind happens when it becomes clear enough for the Tao to move right through it. Being present is straight up freedom. It's no longer being a slave to the rush or to your own expectations. It's realizing the real value isn't in chasing goals, but in the fullness of each tiny gesture. In the quiet space between one breath and the next, Wu Wei whispers softly, you don't have to control a thing, just be here. When doing and being become one, the mind finally rests. And from that stillness, Balensi's born, that sweet spot where yin and yang dance together. Strength meets softness, light recognizes shadow, and in that meeting, inner mastery finally feels complete. Once your mind learns to observe and act without forcing, a new understanding dawns. Everything in life has rhythm cycles, flow, breath. There's inhale and exhale, birth and death, sound and silence, light and dark. Nothing stands alone. Nothing's absolute. Seeing that truth means stepping into the balance of yin and yang, the harmony of opposites that keeps the universe spinning. An unbalanced mind is one that tries to live only on one side, always wanting control, clarity, highs, light. But the Tao reminds us, day and night don't fight each other, they just take turns. When you start accepting the rhythm between yin and yang, between expansion and retreat, you realize balance isn't some fixed point. It's a constant sway between two poles. The secret isn't choosing one side, it's letting both exist. Inside your mind, yin and yang show up as strength and gentleness, action and rest, reason and intuition, thought and silence. When one completely takes over, you get conflict. But when they dance together, wisdom is born. Let thought shine when there's something to understand. Let silence hold you when there's something to feel. A wise mind doesn't reject either one. It simply knows when to let each lead. Picture the sun and the moon sharing the same sky, one lighting the way, the other calming the heart. That's what a balanced mind feels like. Active when life calls for action. Open and still when it's time to listen. It knows there's a moment to move and a moment to rest. A moment to think and a moment to just be. When you start living in sync with that rhythm, your mind stops swinging between extremes and finds its center. Yin is the soft side, the space, the silence, the pause that holds everything. Yang is the fire, the doing, the creating, the moving forward. One without the other loses meaning. Too much yin and you drift into stillness that feels stuck. Too much yang and you burn yourself out. Real mastery of the mind happens when you can switch between the two with ease, like a heartbeat that contracts and expands, keeping life flowing. When your thoughts get too heavy or loud, bring in some yin, take a breath, close your eyes, feel your body. When the quiet turns into laziness or numbness, bring in some yang, move, build, express. That's how you keep the mind alive but not restless, calm but not frozen. Lao Tzu said, know the masculine, but keep to the feminine. That's the way to be the river of the world. He was talking about inner balance, a mind that can be strong without losing its gentleness. Balance isn't something you win once and keep forever. It's a constant dance. Every emotion, every thought, every breath invites you to adjust your pace. Some days, your mind's the sun, bright, fast, full of ideas. Other days, it's the moon, quiet, reflective, deep. Both are sacred. When you embrace both, your mind becomes whole. At the core, yin and yang are just two faces of the same essence. Yin is the root of yang, and yang is the expression of yin. The same goes for your mind. Silence gives birth to thought, and thought dissolves back into silence. There's no real separation, just a circular flow. True mastery comes when you realize you can't control the mind, because the mind is the movement of the Tao within you, the infinite wind passing through your awareness. Accepting yin and yang means accepting yourself completely. It's dropping the inner fight and seeing that duality is just how unity chooses to express itself. When you see light and shadow as partners, not enemies, judgment fades away and your heart opens wide. The mind stops chasing right and wrong, perfect and imperfect, and starts seeing things simply as they are. In that, space balance becomes effortless. You stop trying to control everything because you see that life balances itself. The river finds the sea, day turns into night, breath moves on its own. Everything flows in harmony when you stop interfering. And the mind finally rests in the center, where yin and yang meet in silence, where thought and being become one. When that balance blooms, the search is over. The mind that once wandered and struggled becomes a mirror of the Tao, empty, calm, and clear. And what remains is the natural flow of life itself, quietly guiding everything with invisible wisdom. The river that once fought against the rocks now just flows. The mind that used to be restless and loud has learned to listen to the silence between thoughts. Nothing had to be conquered. No battle had to be won. The change came like dawn, effortless, quiet, just happening on its own. You realize that mastering the mind was never about force. It was about understanding. It's the kind of mastery that comes from letting things be, the kind of power that blooms when you finally stop trying to control. Looking back, you can see the path you walk. Awareness that observes without judging. Way that acts without forcing, and yin and yang dancing in harmony. 3 steps that are really just one movement, a return to essence. The mind wasn't defeated. It was embraced, and in that embrace, it found its natural place again to serve life, not to command it. When a thought shows up, you notice it, but you don't chase it. When silence comes, you welcome it, but don't try to hold on. You've learned to live in the space between both the space where everything's allowed to happen. That's where the Tao breathes through you. The wind blows, leaves move, the river runs, and none of it takes effort. The same goes for your mind when it's aligned with that flow. With time, you start seeing that there was never really a mind to conquer, just an energy that needed to be understood. The mind is part of the whole, the same force that moves the clouds, the tides, the seasons. And when you sync up with that rhythm, your mind turns clear, like water that mirrors the sky without distortion. The mirror quiets down, and what's left is just what is. True mastery is resting in the center, where doing and being are the same thing. It's seeing the world without the weight of control, without rushing to wrap things up. It's living like bamboo that bends with the wind but never breaks. The world might shift, time might pass, but whoever finds inner silence carries a space inside that nothing can touch. Lao Tzu said, "When you're content to be simply yourself and don't compare or compete, everyone will respect you." That's a peaceful mind, simple, present, with nothing to prove. A mind that no longer seeks to dominate because it's seen that the urge to control was the very cause of its restlessness. When that craving fades, all that's left is clarity. The river and the sea don't compete. The river gives itself and the sea welcomes it. In the same way, when the mind surrenders to the heart receives it and turns it into wisdom. What was once thought becomes understanding. What was once resistance becomes flow. Everything dissolves into the harmony of simply existing. You don't need to fight what you feel anymore. You don't need to control what you think. The mind is now part of the same silence that holds the universe together. And that silence isn't empty. It's full. From it come peace, clarity, and love. Within it, mastery reveals itself as freedom. When the mind returns to the Tao, the body breathes on its own. Actions flow with ease. And time stops feeling like an enemy. Everything that happens becomes part of the same dance. There's no rush, just rhythm. No struggle, just direction. The river doesn't need to know where it ends. It simply trusts the journey. And just like that, the cycle comes full circle. The same river that once fought against the rocks now gets it. The rocks were part of its path all along. The mind that used to crave control now chills in the flow. The one who wanted to dominate finally realizes that real mastery is the peace that comes from not needing to control anything anymore. In the end, you get it. There's nothing to win, nothing to chase, because everything already is. That inner sky was always there, vast, open, quiet. You just had to move the clouds aside to see it. Now that the river's found the ocean, there's nothing left to say. The mind that wanted control has melted into the vastness of simply being. What's left is silence, not the empty kind, but a full, living silence. The same kind that lives between one breath and the next, between sunrise and sunset, between thinking and understanding. You start to realize there was never really an enemy to fight, just a part of you asking to be noticed. The mind was never rebellious, just restless from not being heard with kindness. When you start listening with patience, it softens like a kid who finally feels understood. And in that quiet listening, harmony blooms naturally. Mastering the mind is really just loving it. It's looking at the chaos inside you and saying, you're part of the path too. It's welcoming thoughts without fear, emotions without guilt, emptiness without rushing to fill it. It's realizing that even the noise has a purpose to lead you back to silence. In the Tao, there's no split between inside and outside, between me and the world. There's just a continuous flow of existence. The mind's part of that flow, an instrument through which the universe thinks, creates, experiences. When you align with that movement, you stop being the thinker who controls and become the space where thought just happens. And that's when everything starts to feel simple again. Life doesn't need you to figure it out. It just needs you to live it. The Tao doesn't ask you to master it, just to move with it. The mastery we're all chasing isn't about control. It's about the grace of being at peace with what is. When you learn to be quiet inside, the whole world seems to fall into sync around you. Situations lose their sharp edges, people feel softer, and time starts flowing at its own easy rhythm. Take your breath. Feel the air come and go without trying to change it. Feel your mind watching without jumping in. In that tiny, simple act, you're already practicing the Tao. There's nothing to reach for. It's all already here. When the mind clears, the heart opens. And when the heart opens, life gets beautifully simple. You act when it has to team you to act, and you rest when it has to team you to rest. Thoughts still come and go, but they don't drag you along anymore. They're just part of the scenery, like wind moving through the trees, never changing the tree itself. Remember, mastery isn't control, it's trust. Trust that life's flow knows what it's doing, that silence speaks louder than noise, and that what you've been searching for has been living inside you all along. May you walk lightly from this moment on. May your mind become like clearwater.com/fluid at peace. May the quiet of the Tao wrap itself around every step, every move, every breath. And when your thoughts start to rush and crash like waves, just remember, the river never forgot how to reach the ocean. It only forgot it was already on its way there. Breathe, smile, and let the Tao take the lead. Share this message with someone who could use the reminder that real mastery isn't about controlling the mind, it's about the art of simply being. Before you head out, I've got a gentle invitation for you. If something in this message hit home or stirred something in your heart, drop a comment and tell me what you felt. Your words help build a circle of presence, a space where we can all learn to listen to each other's silence. Share what you've discovered about your own mind or what part of this resonated with you the most. Every comment is like a leaf landing softly on the river, making the flow even more beautiful. Leave your reflection below and help this message keep flowing with calm and awareness.